All right, so it is 9 a.m. in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, New York, and I don't even know what time it is in Europe, in the time zone where our speaker is. I assume it's 3 p.m. And
It is
today,
3 p.m.
right, is it? So we have a very special guest. We have Alektin Berisha of the Finnish Schools International. And so the reason this one is very special is because Alektin was and is still an ex-culture professor. So he has participated in this project a number of times as a professor with his students, as a researcher. But then, as any or as most business professors, he also does some business on the side. So if you want to be a good business professor, you probably want to do what you teach. And so he's now a founder of the Finnish Schools International, a new startup, a new business, an exciting one. And so his role this semester will be dual. So he is both a professor, but also the business owner and representative. And so another reason I'm very excited about this product, about this company, is that education is basically what we do. Education is what X-Culture is about. And so we specialize in education and in international. And the Finnish Schools International do exactly that. They do education, but they take a model of education from Finland that has been renowned, praised for effectiveness. I've heard many, many good things and read a number of books actually about the Finnish education system. And so they're trying to take it international so that students in other countries could benefit and enjoy this system. I will be honest with you, if I had a school like this here in my town, I would definitely send my kids to the Finnish school if I had a chance. Unfortunately, I don't, but who knows, maybe by the time they graduate, we will still have a subsidiary and maybe they will still have that chance. My younger one is in grade 5, so we still have 5, 6, 7 years to go, so we should still have the time. But anyway, without any further ado, I give you our presenter, Alektin Berisha. And so the plan for today is the following. We will introduce the company, talk a little bit about the business model, review the main questions in the challenges, and then obviously if you students, and I see we have already quite a few people watching us on YouTube live, if you have any questions, you can either email them to admin@xculture.org, or better yet, don't be shy, click on that long link that I sent to you, presenter link, call in link, and you can join us right here in the webinar room and engage in the discussion with the presenter directly. So it's always much more lively, much more engaging if you join us and talk. This way we will see your face, we will hear your voice, you can ask clarifying questions. So, but yes, if you prefer just to watch and send an email, a question via email, that will work very well too. Please.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Hi. Hello, everyone. It is a great pleasure to be today with you. As Vas said, I'm an instructor since 2011 with X-Culture. I guess from the second cohort. I missed the first one, and I'm very jealous about that. But I've really enjoyed, and I've seen firsthand the important work that X-Culture students do. And for that particular reason, I wanted to be part of this challenge with our newly established startup company, which is Finnish Schools International. And you know, you've heard so many good stories about X-Culture, but I can tell you firsthand that my students who have been part of this program, they have really gone up into their careers so fast, mostly because of the cross-cultural understanding that they got from this, because of the new knowledge and new skills that they developed by working with people from different countries, different time zones, in a virtual environment. Because the real world is like that. The real world is that you have to work with people that you maybe don't like very much sometimes, with people that you don't understand always their culture, with people that are not in your time zone. And this is the new global business. And for that reason, I think you're really, really lucky to be part of this project. And I urge you and I encourage you to really work hard, because this will be one of your highlights, and you will see that in your career. So about the Finnish Schools International. I am an educator and entrepreneur for 15 years. I've been in this sector for 15 years as a instructor, as a university leader. For 7 years now, I'm a president of a small college in Kosovo. I have been involved in several other startups, almost exclusively related to education and education technology. 2 years ago, with some partners and friends from Finland, we started working on our new project, Finnish Schools International, which is to bring the best K-12 education system in the world to other countries in the world. So our idea is to really provide a completely new education paradigm to other countries, something that Finns take for granted. And as you know, Finland is a very small country. It's only 5 million people. But for many years, especially since 2000, when the first PISA results came out, they have been always at the top. And there are so many reasons why this is happening, but I would say that they invested so much in this, and their system is all based on children enjoying the school. So it's not a school that you have to go to because you have to, but it's a school that you really like to go. So, and why is that the case? So they work individually with every kid. So they individualize learning for every kid, and that's what we're trying to do. Their teachers are the best in the world. They have the best teacher training system. It takes 5 years to become a teacher. So you go 5 years to school to get a master's degree before you qualify to do the 1 year of internship. So 6 years of prep before you can even apply for a teaching job. And before that, it's quite hard to get into faculties of education or teacher training colleges in Finland. There are only 8, and they only enroll 700 per year, all these 8. So, for example, in University of Jyväskylä, which is 150 years old, teacher training college, actually 160, there only 2.8% of applicants get enrolled. So the admission rate is low, basically it's more competitive than the Harvard itself. So you can imagine how popular and how important being a teacher in Finland is. So what is Finnish Schools International? It is, I will read you our mission statement, which is to every parent who wants to get the highest quality education for his or her child, her child. Finnish Schools International is an ecosystem growing every kid into a smart, healthy, creative, social person, utilizing the world's best education system, that of Finland, complemented by our unique program and delivery method based on technology, games, integrated arts, kitchen science, outdoor and experiential learning. So as you see, we have taken the best practices of Finnish education. We have put some more ingredients into that, such as technology or edtech, education technology. We use technology both as a medium of instruction, but also coding, robotics from the age of 6. It's not the idea that all our students, all our kids will become programmers.
So your kids will have programming from the age of 4?
That is true.
That is cool.
But yes, so it will be the first, I think, school of this kind that will have coding from the age of 6. We're actually starting from the age of 3 with computational thinking, but of course they don't touch computers from the age of 3 to 6. I mean, they can touch tablets and stuff, but not for programming. But they learn computational thinking through a methodology called Hello Ruby, which was basically developed also in Finland. So they start learning computational thinking. They play board games from the age of 3 that are very much related to programming. So they develop an algorithmic logic. And it's very important.
Right.
You know? Learning programming, learning coding from very early on helps you with developing your logic, your critical thinking skills, and your creativity. And if you look at the World Economic Forum 2020 top 10 skills, you will see that creativity, problem solving, and teamwork are the three top skills that we need our kids. And as you know, when the students that will start first grade this year, when they graduate from university in 15 years or 16 years time, only 70% of the jobs that they will be applying are completely new, unheard, and jobs that we don't know today. So there is a big challenge, and we're creating a school system for this, for the revolution 4.0, if I can say so. So we're creating a school that will help our kids to develop those skills that are needed 15, 20 years from now to help them compete in the labor market that we still don't know what will be like. So basically, we started the first campus in Pristina, Kosovo, for several reasons. First, because we know Pristina and Kosovo, because I am originally from here, but also because Kosovo is not the easiest business environment. It has very public education system, and it is our pilot. We wanted to test our model in one of the most challenging environments, because if it really works here, it will work most other places, we think.
The New York test. If you can survive in New York, you can survive anywhere. Same thing with the. You can do it there. You can do it anywhere.
Absolutely. So we are kind of New York in the education sphere. The website we were expecting to be launched Monday. As you know, the companies that work on these things, they're usually a bit late. So we're expecting any hour. It might be even today. It will be Finnish.school. It's very easy, and you will have much more information there, and you can see. But basically, some of the features that distinguish us is that technology, games-based learning, but also experiential learning. So in every school that we create, we're creating a new model of experiential learning called Helpri City. And Helpri City is a city where the kids from the age of 6 to the, from the grade of 6 until the grade of 11 will be able to live and work. We have created a whole new curriculum to supplement this, and also a software that manages the city. So one day you can become a bank manager, the other day you could be the mayor of the Helpri city, or the other day you will work in the tax administration. So we're combining public, private companies and institutions through a very rigorous curriculum, and with challenges just like this challenge that you have. We're giving real challenges from real companies to our students, because there will be real companies, real banks, real institutions, and they have to work during the day, and then at the end of the day, all the transactions will be on our own software platform in cloud, and at the end of the day, you could see who has done what. So you will have the challenges that you will have to do, and in this way you will learn much more about how the society works, how the economy works, and how the entrepreneurial mindset gets developed. These are very important elements.
From the grade 6, that's what, from age 11, 12?
Exactly, from age 12 it will be.
That's so cool. So that's basically like real problem solving. So instead of a theoretical, read the textbook and answer the questions, they will actually do something that is what people do when they grow up, right?
Absolutely, yes. Because in this way, they are able to learn how things work in real life, and it's enjoyable. They will have a curriculum behind it. It's not just you go there and play. It's not a playing field. It is very rigorous curriculum, but on a very enjoyable environment where you would perform, you would do things, and you will be mentored by teachers and by company mentors, like real professionals coming to the campus to mentor you and to guide you. This is very, very important. The other thing is that in our schools, you don't have homework. Until the grade of 9, no homework at school, no homework. So everything you do at school. Finnish school, in comparison to all other systems, doesn't have a long day. It usually ends 12:30, 1:30, or maximum 2 p.m. But in our school, kids will stay until 3:30, and the afternoon is filled all with school clubs. So you will be part of different clubs, things that you enjoy, and you will develop your skills on a very nice, relaxing environment. Of course, clubs are also, you have teachers, you have mentors there, so not like leisure time. You do real work, but you do work that you enjoy. You do a lot of handicraft, you do a lot of arts, and basically arts is also a very strong point in our education system, because we believe it's only arts that helps you develop the creativity, and we said it's second the most important skills required in 2020. I mean, even today, it's extremely important skill. But the thing is, we have to develop creativity of our students, and art was always left behind, not in our school. You learn you learn science through kitchen experiments. So until the high school, until the grade 10, you will work with things that you know, that you see every day in your home, in your kitchen. So the experiments you use are with lemon and with salt and with things that you use every day. So you don't do a lot of theory, learning chemistry of all these big formulas if you don't understand what the formula is all about.
Right.
So we're really bringing things down to being practical and kids enjoying what they do. And I mentioned technology. We're building, at least in this part of the world, we're building the first AR VR lab. So you will have an AR VR lab, science lab, where the kids would basically through VR and AR could see 360 heart and see all how it's the inside out of it. I mean, just to make it I would say more practical. But we're building a school that will be enjoyable, that will grow the kids, to make them social, to make them responsible, and to make them ready for the challenges of Revolution 4.0. This is what we're doing. Let me tell you a little bit, just one more minute of our first thing here in Kosovo. Learning environment design, or the campus, is extremely important in the Finnish education system. How you design your school and how you design the classroom, it is extremely important and has a direct impact on the kids' learning. So we have designed our first school here in Pristina, which I think is quite unique if you look from, especially in this region. And believe me or not, although we're starting 1st of September 2018, we have 130 kids enrolled and paid 1 year in advance. We have interest from other surrounding countries, and as you know in the plan, Tirana and Zagreb we're opening in 2019 right away, and from that on we're looking to expand to, I would say, all around the world. But when we say all around the world, I don't mean we will open 100 schools in 1 year in 5 continents. And that's why we wanted to work with X-Culture, because I know firsthand the talent within the X-Culture crowd, and we wanted to use your talent to see what would be the markets that would be more inclined. And what are those markets? They're usually those who need a different education system. For example, we were looking at Slovenia, Ljubljana. We have partners there who were very interested that we look into that. While it's very interesting for us, Slovenia has already a very good education system. They are implementing some of the things that we are doing already. So for us, we don't see a very pressing need as we see, for example, in Pristina or in Tirana or maybe in Rio de Janeiro. we see this need even in a lot of American towns and cities. I mean, we have done some work with researching the American schools, and in US you have so many incredible good schools. I mean, really, really good schools, but then you have a lot of bad schools as well. So there is a lot of room even for US, which we plan in 3 to 4 years to consider as a place where we would enter. And of course, for example, if there are proposals for US, we would welcome them very much, because we know US, but we don't know which cities, we don't know which places. And we discussed this with Vas. We would be interested that you look at cities. When we say market entry, not as a whole country, because if you look at Brazil, it's so big. We cannot make a market entry strategy for the whole Brazil, because it's so different. I mean, if you open a school in Rio and you open a school in somewhere else on the other side of the country, it could be very different. But we're looking at cities or smaller communities, I would say, to create market entry strategies. Vas, I think this is a short, long introduction,
That's
as
a very
I
good
usually say.
introduction. We have a few questions also about the program. I saw some guy was here and then left. I'm not sure if he was planning to ask a question or not. But if you wanted to ask a question and if you're still here, some guy, just join us and talk. But there is an interesting question online that just came from Icon Samato. He's asking if the program, the Finnish system, plans or involves many real company visits or field trips. Is that part of the education?
Absolutely, yes. It involves a lot of field trips and a lot of company visits as part of the curriculum. It also involves companies and people from companies coming to the campus, to the class, to talk with kids. We have a mentorship program for from the age of 14 onwards, where every student is assigned a mentor from the business community or from a professional, and based on his or her interest. For example, if you want to be a doctor, if that's what you're aspiring, you will have a top-notch, a very good doctor mentoring you and helping you how to become a doctor. If you want to become an engineer, you will have an engineer. If you want to become an entrepreneur, you will be paired with an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur who will mentor you on the next 4 years for you to become successful and achieve your dream.
Yeah. If I may also, I would like to ask a question from myself. Just not so long ago, literally a couple of months ago, I read this book called The Smartest Kids in the World. And so it's by a professor author here in the United States who has visited a number of countries to study educational systems. And she describes, I believe, about 10 or 12 different systems and compares them. And so looking at the international test scores, Finland and Singapore are the two most highest scored, basically, systems, but they use drastically different approaches. So in Finland, as you described, the focus is on low stress game problem solving. So you start not with the textbook, but with the real problem, and then you try to find a solution to make it, to show the kids why they do what they do. In Singapore, the system is almost military style. So the school's alone, it's a lot of drilling, a lot of multiple choice tests. And then after the school, the kids almost always go and do more tutoring. So they would go to a tutor, and then they have those big schools, tutoring schools, where they get tutored for a few more hours. And in many cases, the kids would be basically studying from like 7 a.m. in the morning till about 11 p.m. And then it's almost acceptable to sleep for the first couple of hours at school next day, because everybody knows that children had tutoring and drilling and exercises literally sometimes past midnight. And so in the end, the kids also do well on the tests, math and language and whatever else they do there. So, but it's a completely different system. And so the question I have is, could you compare those? Do you think the Singaporean system also has some merit, or it's completely outdated and it's not the way children should be treated? And I don't know, just your view on this.
I was involved with Singapore education system in 2012. They were doing the Singapore education pathways beyond 2016 at that time. And I was on an expert group working at that time. I was working at NYU, New York University, and we were 4 professors hired by the Minister of Education of Singapore, along with some other universities in US, to work on this. And basically, me being the youngest at that time, I worked, I guess, the most on that. So, as you correctly say, Singapore's education is like military. From the age of 5, they know exactly where the kid would go and how they should go, and they start from there. I would say cutting the leaves and making fit for whatever they thought the kid would be fit. It's very challenging, it's very time consuming, it's very harsh, and you have similar things, for example, in Shanghai or even in Hong Kong. So it's very strict, a lot of work, math geniuses. Finland is the opposite. I think that system works for the moment, but it needs to change, because we don't need robots. We will have enough robots in 10 years. Artificial intelligence will take over a lot of our robotic jobs. What we need is people not only with professional skills, not only good mathematicians. We need creative mathematicians. We need socially capable mathematicians. So those skills, those kids in Singapore usually lack those skills, and they can maybe develop them only after they start really working. So I think my opinion is that the Finnish education system, or the Finnish model, will be more and more prevailing, because Vas, let's be honest, we're talking about some hybrid man and robot hybridization. We're talking about artificial and human intelligence merging together. We're talking about, in 15 years, some chips in our head that will give us the whole knowledge of the world. So what would be the difference? I mean, if we have all this, what would be the difference? How we can make a difference? And the difference is our creativity, our social skills, and also our responsibility towards the society. So we need to also educate our kids to become good people, to become good members of society, of the society we live in.
Yeah, there is a comment that just came. I will just read it. So it came from Jonathan Cheslog, and apparently he's right here in North Carolina. So he says, I just wanted to comment on what we're talking about. This type of school is very much needed, especially here in the state of North Carolina in the United States. North Carolina is ranked very low on in the United States education public school system. I would be excited to have a school like this in North Carolina. And yes, as a father of 2 children here in North Carolina, my kids go to probably the best schools in town. So we have one of the kind of peculiar features of the American system is that there are good schools and bad schools, often determined by the basically income level of the parents in that district. But there is a huge, huge difference in the quality of education that the children receive depending on where you live in the city. And so when we came here a few years ago, we strategically chose to buy a house in the area where the best schools are. So our children go to relatively good schools, though not quite, perfect, at least not the type of, perfect environment that I would imagine that you described. But in some other parts of the town, the schools are, I guess the word horrible would be probably a good word. So it is not exactly, what parents, would like for their kids to be. And so it would be nice to have not only more good schools, but the hope is, at least my hope is, that some competition in the systems will first allow others to see what works, what's possible, and maybe emulate some of those good features. And 2, gives more choices to the parents. And hopefully through this kind of Darwinian, competition and survival of the best education system, the good system will be perpetuated, whereas maybe outdated systems will slowly vanish and just not exist anymore. So yes, I agree with Jonathan. So I'm not sure if we met in person, probably either of my students, or we have a few other professors from North Carolina. But yes, definitely agree with that.
Thank you, Jonathan. Absolutely, we would definitely be looking forward maybe to one of the projects from our students at X
Yeah,
Culture to
but my only worry, and
maybe concentrate on North Carolina.
yeah. Let's talk about business. And I see Gerald here left a question, and yes, we'll get to that in a second. My only worry here is we had a study once. There was a PhD student from the Netherlands who did a study using X-Culture data. And so she was trying to determine if the students, or managers in that case, I guess, make the decisions about the new best markets based on economic analysis, or are they making those decisions based on personal biases and preferences about the countries? And in the study, she found that, yes, sure enough, people are more likely to move their business to the country that they like rather than to the country where the best business opportunity exists. And my worry with the Finnish School International is that everybody wants to have one of your schools in their location. So instead of telling you where you should open the school as the best location, everybody will say, no, open in my town, open in my town. I bet that my students will all say that Greensboro is the best place ever to have your next school. But as I said, maybe it will not be the reason or the result of deep economic analysis, but simply, selfish interest in having one of those in our own town. So, but yes, so let's go question by question, and actually, Gerald's question will come up, I think, in the second block. But anyway, we have three blocks of questions: market, marketing, and operations management, and we will talk about them maybe one by one. So let's talk first about the market. So in the first block of questions, the students will have to analyze your competitive position and see how your system, how your school, how your business is better than that of competition, or maybe worse, maybe it has some weaknesses as well. And so based on that analysis, the goal will be to scout the planet, essentially, and find the best locations or the most promising locations for the Finnish Schools International as the next business opportunity. And so, as has been already said, the interest here should be, or focus should be, on a particular city as opposed to a country in general. Some countries like the United States, Canada, Brazil, they are huge countries. And so simply saying open it in the United States, not enough. Perhaps try to find a specific city where you think would be the highest demand, people will be able to pay, it's a private school, and at the same time not much competition. And then, so select that market and then describe the market. And so the question I have for you, Alektin, is one, are there any countries that you are specifically interested in? Are there any countries that you perhaps will not go in at any, under any circumstances? And then anything else you're specifically interested in seeing in the answers to this question? Both what would you like to see, but maybe also, is there something that students shouldn't bother putting in it? For example, when describing the market, is there something specifically that you're interested in, like education system, like language, like religion, or maybe some things that you don't care about? So what would be your expectations here?
Yes, definitely. So our strategy is that initially we wanted to go into the Balkans, into the Southeast European, Central Europe region. So Central Europe is our #1 target. Second is Latin America. We would definitely want to go to Latin America. There are several countries that we have an interest on. We would try to go to the. So what would is the safety. So we are at the moment we have doubts on to go into those cities or countries that have big problems with safety and security, because in our model we have to bring Finnish management and a lot of Finnish teachers into those countries, and we are unwilling to risk their lives. So basically we're very, very cautious on our staff, and for that reason we would be inclined not to go to those countries or cities that have high risk. Another area that we are not interested is Middle East. Middle East is very lucrative because private education is developing there so fast. But our partner, EduCluster, they already have a school in Qatar, they work with schools in Abu Dhabi. And Middle East, for time being, it's not very attractive to us because our partner is already working there, and we don't want to basically compete or double our efforts there. The third region is Asia. We don't have any particular countries there. In Vietnam, our partner is already working, so we would skip Vietnam for that reason. But for example, Thailand, Philippines, most of the Southeast Asia especially would be very, very interesting for us as well. Countries like Ukraine, countries like Kazakhstan are also interesting if we have students or if we have interest from students to work on that, because we have had requests from these countries and we would like to know more of whether it's feasible for us to consider them. Turkey is very important and strategically for us. So Turkey is already in our plans, but Turkey is a bit complicated because in Turkey, compared to all other countries, the plan should be with, I don't know, with 10 schools. So you cannot enter Turkey with one school alone. You cannot say we're opening up a school in Istanbul and that's it, and then we will see how it develops and we will open several schools. So if anyone is working in Turkey, or if you would like to work in Turkey, you have to take into account the dynamics and how that education is structured in Turkey is that you have big private education groups. There are several, 6 or 7 that are really big, that they, for example, one of them has 140 campuses throughout the country. So they're really, really big. And in Turkey, you have to basically you have to go big, and you have to be with a local partner. It's very hard to enter Turkey if you don't have a very strong local partner. So as you see also in the challenge for us, in several countries, having a JV with a local partner is very, very important. For example, in the Balkans, in several countries we're going with local partners, in several countries we're going ourselves, but in Turkey, for example, it's paramount that you have a local partner. Who are those local partners? Sometimes they could be big companies that are able to also invest. They're strong in their finances, but in some countries there could be just a very important person who has a very high credibility in the education sector in that country. Right. It doesn't have to be an investor, it doesn't have to be someone who will invest finances. So it all depends on the circumstances, on the countries, on local markets. And the world is so different. I mean, it's so similar, but it's so different at the same time. And for that reason, we think this really will help us, because we will see so many different perspectives from different places in the world, and there will be so many different strategies of entry. And we will definitely discuss Gerald's question, but the costs and the tuition fees are also, we don't have a set policy, so we go country by country. We are on the upscale, so middle and upper level fees. For example, in Kosovo we charge 4,200 euros. In Kosovo the most expensive for a year.
Yeah, that's not bad at
for
all.
Kosovo, that's not bad. Yeah, but for in Kosovo you have from 2,200, which is the cheapest, and you have around 8,000 euros. Well, okay, we have 1 or 2 schools that will charge 20 something, but they are very small schools. But on average, they all charge from 4,000 to 5,500. So we are medium priced here. In Zagreb, we are charging from 8,900 to 9,700 euros. And if you look, for example, American school there, they charge 16.5 to 20,000.
Yes.
But there is another private small British school that charges 7,000. So they would be cheaper than us. So we are somewhere in the mid to upper level range, and all depends on the local circumstances. For example, if we are in the US, I think we don't need to bring a lot of Finnish teachers. But if we go to Guatemala, I think we need a lot of Finnish teachers to be able to create what we're striving to do. In Kosovo, for example, the whole management is from Finland, academic management. 80% of the teachers, classroom teachers, are from Finland, because our strategy is that in the first 5 years, we bring the best. If we wanted to implement this model, and our basis is Finnish national curriculum. So to be able to implement the Finnish national curriculum, we need teachers who are trained to deliver this curriculum. So it all depends, also the fees on local particularities.
Yeah, and talking about the prices, so I'll get to that in a second, but we actually do have one of the questions in the challenge, where you, the students, have to recommend the optimal pricing level for the market that you select.
Exactly.
So here the question is not, this is how much we charge, how do we get the clients? The question is, how much should we charge in this location? And so I guess the job will be to first do a research on how much private schools cost in that location in general, then maybe conduct some sort of like operating cost analysis, and based on that, then recommend the level so it's sustainable, so it's still profitable, or at least, break even, but at the same time, not too expensive for the locals. And yes, you're right. Here in the United States, I don't know by all the cities. I assume it's more expensive in larger cities. But in the smaller town where I live in Greensboro, so private schools are anywhere between $10,000 to $20,000, depending on which one you go to. And and we are in a city where it's a fairly quiet, nice place. So at least in our town, we have some good schools, and so not many people send children to private schools, and they're still fairly expensive. So if your school came here at a comparable price, I would be very, very happy to switch and give it a try. One more question about the markets. So did I understand that correctly, that in order to select the right market, first, it would be a good idea to start with a research of the industry and understand how the private education system works in that country. Are there any restrictions on, for example, foreign-owned businesses operating as schools? Are there any requirements for certification or accreditation? I don't know. I assume income level is to some extent important, so there should be at least some people who are able to pay for private schools. I assume, I don't know, language, is that an issue at all, for example?
Well, language is not an issue. Our medium of instruction is in English. We use CLIL, Content Language Integration in Learning model, developed initially by David Marsh, who is, by the way, a board member of our organization. And we think that in the first year, students will be able to, even if they have no English at all, after the second year they will be proficient and will be able to catch up with the classroom material and everything without any problem. So language is not a problem unless there is, for example, in Thailand, English is I think it's quite a bit of problem. Sometimes in China, in several provinces, that is problematic. But for us, language is not a barrier, I would say, because we have a very good model on how we.
Yeah, that makes it a very nice, huge benefit. Again, I assume for some countries, if the children, in addition to all the wonderful things they get from your education, in addition, they will also become fluent in English, which is, like it or not, is a global language now. I think that's a huge, huge benefit. So it's much better than just, having 1 hour class sometime, on Friday or whatever the day of the week. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Plus, we offer other languages as well. So we offer 2 more foreign languages in addition to the local language. So it depends on the place. For example, in Kosovo, we're offering German and French, because German is very popular around here due to our proximity and due to connections that we have, and French because it's an important language in Europe. So we're even planning after the 3rd year to offer Spanish, because Spanish is becoming a very important language in the world, and we have even plans in the future, we don't know yet, but with Russian, Arabic, and Mandarin or Cantonese. So the kids will be able to learn at least 1 more foreign language while they are at our school. And the way we teach them, as I said, is without forcing the kids, but through the play, through the enjoyment and excitement that they get.
Yeah. And then the second block of questions is about marketing. And so it includes pricing, and we talked about that. So you have to develop a pricing model. And here, the important thing is that you not only suggest the total level of how much it should cost for that location, based on your research, obviously supported with the statistics and your other facts and arguments, but also feel free to suggest a payment structure that may be more suitable for that location. Should it be paid all at once at the beginning of the school year? Should it be paid on the monthly basis? Should there be some certain, I don't know, maybe scholarships or discounts or maybe bulk prices or repeat customer prices or maybe sibling prices? So I don't know what the specific model will be, but when we talk about pricing, I assume it's not only the number, but also how it should be paid, and should there be any different pricing models depending on, as I said, siblings or location and things like that. And so we talked about that. So, but then also we briefly touched upon if it's necessary to have an agreement with a partnership or a partnership with the local government or non-governmental agency. Again, you can put it here. And Alexina already mentioned that sometimes it's important to have the right, connections. I know that in some of the reports we read in the previous semesters for some of the countries, the students would literally say, if you want to do this business in this country, this is the name, this is the person in the government you need to talk to first. If you have this person's blessing, you will be the king. If he doesn't say yes, you don't even have to try, because it will not work without his approval. So I'm not sure if it's going to be like this in any of the markets related to education, but again, it's important to do that research. But there are two questions, and those we would like to discuss more. So promotion channels and basically the customers. So I assume opening a school takes probably years. It's not like you would be selling, shoes or clothing or chocolate, where you decide to sell it today and tomorrow you already can list it on the internet and start selling. So in this case, it will take some time. And so the question I would like to clarify is, who should be the target audience? Should the students try to reach and talk and survey the parents of the children and thereby get an indication of interest of potential, from potential customers? Or should they try to talk to some government officials and see how to promote this idea? So when we talk about the segment or the decision makers or the customers, and then obviously the promotion channels that should be used to reach that audience, who should they target?
As you rightly said, Vas, the first thing that the students should do is to see if there are any legal problems with foreign ownership, with foreign curriculum, with international schools. So that has to be cleared. Once you could see that legally it is possible to do business in a certain country, then our target group is precisely the parents. So try and target the parents. And when targeting the parents, of course, you are the experts. You know much better than I do on how to do that in several countries. But for example, in Kosovo, who is our target group? In Kosovo, the target group is not millionaires. So it's not the richest people in the country. Our target group is not parents who are over 55. So we're mostly working with younger parents that have one or two children in their families. They're rarely families with 3 children that have enrolled in our school, that have above the average. I mean, they are in the middle class or the upper middle class, I would say. But they're mostly people like professors, people like doctors, like lawyers, company executives, but not necessarily the richest guys. So those who value a different kind of education, those who are able to experiment on a positive sense with education. Because when we did the focus groups initially with this, and we asked the parents, why would you send your kids, or why did you send your kid to a certain private school? They will tell us, most of them will tell us those things that we actually think are really bad. You know, they would talk only about the school being very tough, the school being very rigid, the school being very rigorous, the school being, the discipline being at the highest level, maintained by force. Opposite of that. We're not saying we're not a rigorous school, remember, Finland score the best in most of the tests, most of the international tests. Although kids in Finland never take a test until the 9th grade, they never see a test until the 9th grade. And then they sit the first test in the 9th grade, and the second test could only be, maybe it's only the second test, the PISA test, but they are always at the top. So the approach is different, but the results are good. In Singapore, Vas mentioned, they learn how to test from the age of 6. And they're good at the end, but they work on a different methodology. And most of these parents, when we ask, they wanted, I would say, the Singaporean system. Why? Because they haven't seen something else. They didn't know about this. And they were not very, I would say, entrepreneurial and risk takers. But then, when we started to talking to not those who had parents, who had kids in their private schools, but actually those who had kids in public schools, because they could not find a proper private school that met their needs, they realized that was our target. So that in Kosovo, the target is that they're mostly young professionals, mostly middle class, maybe upper middle class, those who we charge 4,200 euros, but our parents usually don't make more than 4,000 euros a month. And I'm talking about household income, so both parents. So mostly those who would have income from 2,000 to 4,000 euros annually, monthly in Kosovo. In other countries, it's different. In US, with 80,000 a year household income, you're considered poor. Somehow poor. So it is different. But that is our target group here. And in other countries, it could be differently. For example, I don't know, maybe in Brazil, only the richest people send their kids to the private school. I don't know. Maybe that's the target. So you have to tell us what is the target group, and then based on that, you try and survey that particular target group, that segment that you think will understand or creates a product market fit with the value that we're giving.
So ideally, try to talk to several of those potential parents of the children, see what their thinking is, what would motivate them to send their children to a school like this, and basically see what their expectations are, and based on that, develop the best marketing strategy to that particular segment.
Absolutely.
And then, so the last block, operations management. So here we have 3 questions, legal, and we talked about that. So try to do, I assume, research as to whether or not there are any restrictions or rules about how education companies operate, schools operate, accreditation, certification. So that is fairly easy. Finances, we did include that, though it's probably for more distant future. What is the best way to collect the payments, move the money across the border? I assume that would be an interesting issue to explore, but it's a little too early to worry about it too much. But there is one that is HR, and so that's what I would like to clarify. So first of all, would you normally use local teachers, or are they expatriated from either Finland or some third countries? And then also, are you looking to hire some additional staff, either for maintenance or perhaps also for sales representatives, people who will do the recruitment? How would it work? So what are your expectations with respect to hiring people, compensating and managing people?
Yeah. Our policy is that the senior academic management is all from Finland. So the principal, the deputy principals, the special education coordinator, the ICT coordinator in most cases, maybe not in US, because you have very good people who do education technology maybe. So, but those people, they all come from Finland. Teachers, whether classroom teachers or subject teachers, it depends on the country. There are some countries who have very good teachers, so they have a very good teacher education system. We would recruit 80 to 85% of the teachers locally. But there are countries who have very bad, and we would have to bring maybe 80% of the teachers expats, mostly from Finland. Mostly from Finland. So this is also important to us, is how easy it is to get the work permit, because in some countries it's very hard to get work permit for expats. I don't
Right.
know. I mentioned Guatemala before, and I will say maybe in Guatemala you cannot even work as an expat. I know you can, but maybe, I don't know, in X country, you're not allowed as an expat, or you can only work for 3 months, or only work for 6 months, or maybe you can work, but it takes 2 years to get a work permit. So these are maybe small things, but sometimes important when
So I
at
assume
new
that for
market.
the HR block, it would be important to add some of those questions. Maybe we should even add them to the challenge, basically expatriate management. So what would it take? Are there any visa requirements? Are there any special work permit requirements? Payments, taxes? I assume all of that would be relevant information to you. How easy would it be, or how difficult would it be to bring someone from Finland and for that person to live there? How much will it cost? What kind of legal steps it would require?
Exactly, because in Kosovo, for example, it's pretty easy, straightforward,
Right.
and the taxes are quite low. Income tax here is very low, so no problem. In Croatia, it's because it's EU, no problem. No work permit is needed, but taxes are 50%.
Wow.
So if you paid anyone whatever the amount, you have to account the same amount in taxes. And when you pay expats, you usually have to calculate it as net. So because they will have to calculate what is the income they're getting.
Right,
So what
right,
is the money, the
right.
cash they're getting as a salary? And in Finland, you have to calculate. I mean, in Croatia, the same amount. If you pay, I don't know, 2,500 euro a month for a teacher, you have to calculate that you're actually paying 5,000, because
Right.
the other
Right.
2.5 goes in taxes. So I don't know. I think we haven't put this on the challenge, but
Yeah, I
it's
probably
not
will add that
extremely
in the meeting because
important.
that's an important issue. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it's not the most important thing maybe at this stage, but it could be interesting to look at, because we have to. I mean, we have to, at the end of the day, if we're going to a certain country or city, we have to look into this as well.
It's a very important issue. Us academics, professors, in many cases, we have opportunities to work overseas. First of all, when we look for jobs, in many cases, we can apply for jobs at universities in in different countries. But then when we have the sabbatical, again, we can choose to go just about anywhere. And so I did some research on the differences in, the legal standards, the taxes, and all that stuff, and they're huge. They're huge. So you would think that, the income level in the country is roughly the same, so it should be the same working as an expatriate. And no, it's very different. In some countries, like for example in South Korea, as a foreigner, you pay no taxes essentially, and in some other countries, you literally have to give up half of your income, and so all of a sudden, it's a huge difference. So yeah, not to mention that getting
Absolutely.
a visa permit, work permit visa, can be very, very different. Again, in some countries, it's as easy as showing your contract on the border. In other countries, you have to literally apply like a year in advance, and there is no guarantee you'll get it. So, all right, well, so it
Definitely.
seems like we've gone through all of the questions, and I have received a few by email, but it seems like we've touched upon most of them in the discussions, so I'm not going to go back to those questions. And so we're pretty much out of time. So thank you so much, Alektin. I'm amazed. I kind of hope that many students will suggest Greensboro as the best destination, and you will say, oh, yes, sure, let's open a school here. I will be the first in line to send my kids if they're still young enough to go there by the time it's done. But obviously, the students have to do, good research and make all the recommendations not based on your intuition, but actually based on solid research and perhaps informed intuition. And so, as
Absolutely.
discussed earlier, we will plan to have another webinar sometime in the early November, so about a month from now. So by that time, hopefully, there will be enough information the teams have collected to have a little presentation or give a little presentation to the company, and then maybe receive some feedback so that in the remaining weeks you could have a little
Yeah.
time left to use that feedback to incorporate it in your report. But for now, it seems like we've clarified most of the issues, and yeah, so you will have about 2 months to complete the challenge. So, thank you so much, and yeah, we will be in touch.
Thank you, Vas. Thank you, everyone watching. It is a great pleasure and an honor to be on this side of the aisle with X Culture, and you are a really great bunch of very young, talented people. So I look forward to receiving your your plans and to give my feedback. And yeah, I mean, we will be in touch, I think, in the next few weeks and months.
Yeah, sounds good.